A homecoming reunion for an American businessman who has spent several months in a Saudi Arabian prison cell.
Oh, Mama.
Dick Sanderson claims he was whipped 120 times with a cane by Saudi authorities after he was convicted of being intoxicated, a serious offense in an Islamic country where alcohol is strictly forbidden. Sanderson admits his transgression, but complains that American diplomats did little to help him in his time of trouble.
I was surprised about how little they could do, and then I was surprised how little they actually knew about the laws of the country themselves.
Others who have encountered trouble making money in Saudi Arabia's booming economy echo Sanderson's complaint. They say Western businessmen are frequently extorted and tortured in Saudi Arabia, and they accuse American diplomats of looking the other way when human rights are violated. For instance, foreign businessmen who have a routine business dispute with a Saudi citizen can be thrown in prison and kept there indefinitely, even if no crime has been committed. Bruce Munden of Dallas says he learned that firsthand.
The jail or holding tank with 40 people on the floor was completely filled with lice.
Munden says he was arrested after refusing to sell his company's trade secrets to Saudi businessmen. Munden says no charges were ever filed against him during the 8 months he spent being tortured in the Dammam Central Prison.
People are being beaten, abused, starved to death, steamed to death at 127 degrees and 100% humidity. Lights are on 24 hours a day. They're not allowed any exercise whatsoever. And in the prison I was in, there were 1,500 people thrown in, and daily people would be carried out from complete collapse from typhoid fever. Disease was rampant throughout the prison.
Charles Chowafati, a former Arizona businessman, tells a similar story. He says a quarrel with his Saudi business partner over the price of some trucks led to his imprisonment for 2 years.
And they were always answering that whenever I pay the money or resolve my commercial problem, I would be released. And that was a flat lie.
Chowafati supplied us with these photographs of life inside the Ruwais prison near Jeddah. Shown here publicly for the first time, they were taken after a camera was smuggled piece by piece into the prison over several months. Chowafati says when he made profane comments about prison conditions to Saudi authorities, his sentence was extended by 3 years, and he was further punished with a brutal flogging.
2 lieutenants were holding my hands, and a guard was just whipping me on my back the whole, as from my neck down up to my toe, up the sole of my feet, and it's really painful.
How many times were you whipped?
50.
The lives of Al and Lee Levine changed dramatically one night in 1983 when Saudi police ransacked their home and confiscated videotapes of American movies. The police accused Al Levine of trafficking in pornography. He confessed and spent 17 months in prison. Now living in Houston, Levine told us his confession was phony, the result of torture and threats by guards to beat and rape his wife as he watched.
I was struck in the kidney areas with a truncheon, that's the correct word, and on the feet with sliced or split bamboo sticks. It's quite painful. This left a bruise which I asked the American consul to look at, and they refused.
Other former prisoners, such as Keith Carmichael of London, England, warn of even more terrifying torture, homosexual rape by prison guards.
This policeman came in with a packet of cigarettes and said, "Would I like a smoke?" And I said yes, but then it was quite obvious that he was offering a cigarette for some sexual play. So I punched him up, and he went screaming down to his mates. And then later, 3 of them came, and we had a fight because they tried to get me down and bugger me, but I managed to defend myself.
Carmichael says that attack and other torture left permanent injuries. The British businessman says he spent 2.5 years in Saudi prisons because of a commercial dispute, but was never charged with a crime. Adults may not be the only victims of the alleged human rights abuses. Several ex-prisoners told us that Saudi prisons are filled with children, sometimes even American kids, who are sexually abused and tortured.
There were children as young as 3 years old in the prison. I knew of one particular Kuwaiti child whose father had been arrested, supposedly smuggling some type of contraband across the Kuwait border into Saudi. And when he was arrested, the child was with the father, and because they had nothing else to do with the child, they threw him in the children's section of the prison.
King Fahd and other Saudi officials refused to comment on the allegations of human rights abuses despite CNN's repeated inquiries. Recently, a handful of demonstrators picketed the Saudi embassy in Washington. They say both the Saudi and American governments know about human rights violations but do little to correct them. Former prisoners are more blunt in their assessment of the situation, especially when it concerns American diplomatic actions. What did you find the attitude of American officials to be toward yourself and other prisoners in the jail in Tehran?
Lofty disdain and the assumption of guilt. They go through the motions of making the visits and then reporting back, and I asked the question, I said, you've made the visit, you're reporting what you observed back, but where does this information go? And the answer is it goes nowhere.
U.S. State Department officials deny those charges. They say American diplomats promptly investigate any allegations of human rights violations. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Vern Penn told me 1 or 2 cases of mistreatment of American prisoners by Saudis have been confirmed, but he denies that such cases are widespread. Ex-prisoner Bruce Munden, along with others like him, has a different view based on his personal experience.
The State Department said they have no reason to believe that any of my allegations were true about American prisoners being tortured or their rights or human rights being abridged or compromised. And the whole situation is dropped at that point, just because the State Department says it's not going on, and you have 30 to 50 people over there, Americans, who all are thrown in together, living together, and you see them get up and walk to the toilet and then their feet bleed, and you know they've been beaten. They come back and say they beat the hell out of them. Now, why can the State Department get away with saying this is not going on, and everyone in Washington drops it at that point and says, well, because the State Department says it's not happening, we just assume it's not happening?
Pat Clawson, CNN, on special assignment.